Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition.
This is what happens. You get in the desert and you start looking at all this stuff and you go, whoa, whoa, what was that?
Yeah, the timing is really important. So sometimes we can see one, sometimes we can see two different blooms, or as much as three.
It's a very special place because it's a little desert town in the middle of nowhere.
KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening, I'm Ebony Monet.
And I'm Mark Sauer. We're at Anza-Borrego Desert State Park for special coverage tonight of the beautiful blooming flowers here in the desert.
And Mark, it is absolutely breathtaking out here.
It's a gorgeous day out here. I know they got some rain back in San Diego, but it was beautiful here today. Saw folks from all over the place. You walk around the visitor center parking lot here, license plates from everywhere. One of the rangers told me there was somebody here from Russia today. They're coming in from everywhere.
And of course, they're here to see the super bloom. In just a bit, we'll actually take you on a tour of the flower fields with Nance Sturman, who is, of course, the host of A Growing Passion. To check it out.
The flower lady. And we're going to talk to meteorologist Alex Tardy back in San Diego about all that rain and the other factors about the weather that create this bloom. Plus the town of Borrego Springs. Matt Hoffman is going to be talking with us about exactly what tourism and all this impact of the tourists and the visitors here mean.
But first, let's send it back to the KPBS studios with our Susan Murphy for tonight's top news.
Good evening, Ebony and Mark. Let's take a look at our top stories tonight. Transportation officials are mulling a 2020 ballot measure that would raise money for public transit. And a new report by the nonprofit think tank Circulate San Diego tries to imagine what that money could do. The report found a half-cent sales tax could generate roughly $10 billion for public transit and road repair over 40 years. The report's author says he wants to spark discussion among voters and policymakers about how that money could benefit San Diego's economy and the environment.
Where do I want a trolley to go? Which buses do I want to make faster? What potholes do I think need to be repaired? What bike lanes should we be building near schools to keep kids safe? We need to start thinking about those sorts of things and get people excited and make sure that MTS includes those elements in a ballot measure.
Circulate San Diego says a tax measure by MTS could fund popular projects, such as a trolley connection to the airport. MTS is still in the early phases of discussing a potential 2020 tax measure. It recently conducted polling, but hasn't yet released the results. The San Diego Unified School District is improving how it responds to maintenance issues. The changes come after a KPBS story on a heating system outage at a local school. 15 City Heights classrooms were impacted. The district provided portable heaters during that time, but a teacher told KPBS some classroom temperatures reached the low 50s. The district says it plans to improve how it prioritizes service requests and better evaluate how newly installed equipment is installed. Flu cases across San Diego County are continuing to soar, and doctors are warning a new and more aggressive strain of the virus has arrived in the region. H3N2 is a variant of swine flu that tends to strike older adults. Dr. Eric McDonald, the county's medical director of epidemiology, says the aggressive strain could cause a second wave of flu across the county and prolong flu season into April or May.
If H3N2 starts to increase in California and in San Diego like it has in other parts of the country, then we can expect more outbreaks, more older people getting influenza, more cases being reported.
So far this flu season, the strain responsible for the majority of cases in San Diego County is H1N1, which tends to impact people under the age of 40. A new report shows more than 6,000 people have been sickened and 45 people have died. Dr. McDonald says the flu vaccine is effective against both flu strains, and it's not too late to get vaccinated.
So we're here now at the Visitor Center to find out more about the plants and vegetation that make up this super bloom. And I'm joined now by Nance Sturman, the host of A Growing Passion, to find out more about these flowers especially.
Right. That's why I brought my camera, got my hat. We're going to go hunt wildflowers.
Let's go. I've never been out here. How does this compare to?
Well, this normal years, this would be a really great bloom. I mean, it's very consistent. The purple, there's blue, there's yellow, there's kind of this white. I mean, there's a lot going on here, but I'm told that it's even better down there.
Wow. Obviously, folks are here for the super bloom. So what signifies a super bloom and how does it all come about?
Well, the super bloom is when, it's just our term for when there's like an amazing amount of flowers out. And what's happened this year is that there were rains in early fall. It's really interesting. There's always seeds in the soil. We don't see them, but when the plants finish flowering, of course, they release their seeds. So there's what we call a seed bank in the soil all the time. Those early rains started washing away. There's water-soluble chemicals in those seeds that keep them from germinating, from sprouting. And so the rain starts to wash those away, and then the temperature's just right, and there's just the right amount of moisture, and they sprout. And then we kept getting rain, and it's been really nice and cool, and you get this kind of bloom. Everything is just right, and boom, you get a bloom. And there's another one just about to bloom over there. Look at the leaves. The leaves are all crenulated.
Now, what would you say to someone who maybe came out here, sees these beautiful flowers, like maybe this beautiful purple one here, and got so inspired that they wanted to try to plant it in their own garden?
Okay, if you live here in Anza-Borrego and you could find seeds for the desert sand verbena, then you could plant it in your own garden. But if you don't live in the desert, this will not grow for you. This is adapted to these kinds of harsh conditions, really intense sun, very little rainfall, and the kind of soil, which, you know, you can see it looks like beach sand. So there are other verbenas that you can grow that are adapted to garden conditions, not this one.
Is it difficult for other types of plants to take root and grow in this type of soil?
That's a really good question. Really, all you need to do is look out here, and the plants that will grow here are growing here, and the ones that don't grow here for a reason. That's just not the right conditions for them.
Nan, thank you so much for being a great guide. My first trip out here, it was an excellent experience.
I'm so glad to hear that. You're going to come again, right?
Definitely. So that about wraps up our flower tour. I had so much fun spending the afternoon with Nan, and the flowers were absolutely beautiful.
The flowers are terrific, and you know, that's what brings people here. And of course, the visitors, all the visitors that come to this state park have a big impact on Borrego Springs, the town nearby. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman was there to see how big an impact.
So we're going to go up, take this little dirt road that veers off of this one.
Joe Raffetto is getting ready to take tourists on a tour through Anza-Borrego Desert State Park.
I'm just getting up.
Yeah.
Today, he's taking out a group of 9 people. Raffetto owns California Overland. It's one of 2 tour companies that does business inside the state park.
The draw for Anza-Borrego is that you're getting away from basically the madness of maxed out tourist destinations. This is still, and I'm fine even as a business owner having it be this way, but it's still a well-kept secret. Okay, guys, come on out.
Although part of San Diego County, Borrego is definitely off the beaten path. The small town is a 2-hour drive from downtown San Diego.
It's a very special place because it's a little desert town in the middle of nowhere, but it sustains itself off of the people that come in to go out here. All the different reasons, not just with us, but you know, to go hiking or just to go check out the flowers or the sculptures in town, which are another draw.
San Diego primarily is our source of business, and we have always been San Diego's favorite desert destination.
Patrick Sampson is president of the Borrego Springs Chamber of Commerce, and he manages the La Casa del Zorro Resort.
Speaking on behalf of the Chamber, 140 businesses registered in the town of Borrego Springs. The resorts, the golf courses, are the predominant entities. Food and beverage, wining and dining, and the spa industry is also big here.
Locally, there's 3,500 permanent residents in Borrego Springs.
And then in high season, a lot of snowbird activity. Second homeowners come back to Borrego Springs, and the population grows to between 10 and 15,000.
One of the biggest challenges in Borrego is businesses surviving during the off-season in summer when temperatures soar to upwards of 120 degrees.
When you go from 15 to 20,000 people down to 3,500, a lot of people close. So it's an ongoing, constant promotion of the destination.
Well, let's go in here.
Businesses like California Overland rely on the busy season.
March and April are the big months. And then, yeah, definitely summer tapers off, and that's the thing, is to build up those shoulder months for everybody in town.
Raffetto says he wants to see Borrego grow, but keep its small town feel.
I think the future is tourism, you know, like, and we have to like really measure it against like trying to keep out things that are the great homogenization in the rest of, you know, out in civilization. Like, you know, we had to battle some giant transmission lines, and you want to keep chain stores, I think, out of here.
Borrego sits in the middle of a desert, and as you might imagine,
we're facing a challenge with the water situation.
There's a handful of citrus and tree farms in Borrego Springs. The Borrego Water District reports 70% of the water in Borrego Springs is used for agriculture, 20% is used for recreation, including golf courses and hotels, and the rest is used by residents. But there's a problem. The groundwater supply for Borrego is being overdrawn, and over the next 20 years, water usage has to be cut by nearly 75%.
That is the challenge. It's how do we fit in to the new levels of water production.
Sampson hopes there's a solution that would allow the farming and tourism industry to continue operating here.
From the Chamber of Commerce perspective, we hope there's room for everyone, as there should be. The agricultural community is the most threatened by a 70% anticipated reduction.
He says if the tourism and farming industry were to leave, there would be a drastic ripple effect.
But let's think of the alternative. Without agriculture and without golfing and without a significant role of those businesses in the economy of Borrego Springs, where will we be?
This month, the Borrego Water District and County of San Diego will release a draft plan on how water levels will need to be reduced over the next 2 decades. Time will tell how the cuts impact the desert town. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
A river is running through it, an atmospheric river. And thanks largely to this anomaly of the atmosphere, there's a super bloom now in Anza-Borrego. And for the nuts and bolts of specific cause and effect, we turn to Alex Tardy of the National Weather Service, his office in Rancho Bernardo. Welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
Well, glad you're here. We're hearing the term atmospheric river, as I said in the open here. It's a lot this winter. Define what it is and how long can we expect the wet pattern to last?
Yeah, so an atmospheric river is a term you're hearing a lot of. It's not really new, but what it is an abundance of moisture that comes out of the Pacific Ocean, sometimes out of the tropics, but anywhere in the Pacific. And storm systems that we get bring that moisture. We don't hear about it during the drought years much because we don't have any storms to draw that moisture up. So it's kind of a combination of the two. But really, it's like a regular river or stream. It's a flow of moisture high up in the atmosphere, 10, 20,000 feet. And when that's pointed on you, you get a lot of rain and sometimes snow too in the high terrain.
And how do weeks of solid rain trigger an event like this super bloom we're seeing out in the desert? And do we need a drought to precede the rain?
So the rain obviously is very important for any germination of seeds, whether it be in the desert or in your own garden. So this rain is the biggest component. We don't need a drought before because the seeds are typically laying around and ready to go, if you will. But we need that right combination of rain early or middle of the winter. And then we need warmth conditions on top of that so that when the seeds germinate, they don't rot and they turn into flowers and start growing. And then eventually we see the flowers. But ultimately, yeah, the rain is the most important.
But as you say, it's a series of effects because I read here just today that Death Valley gotten rain, but they're not getting the super bloom that we're seeing down south here.
Yeah, the timing is really important. So sometimes we can see one, sometimes we can see 2 different blooms or as much as 3. So when the rain comes in the middle of the winter, say December and January, that can really set the stage for March and April for almost a perfect bloom in the desert areas.
Okay, and is there anything unique about Anza-Borrego area makes it a prime location, or is this kind of common throughout the deserts of Southern California?
A lot of the deserts have it. Back in 2017, it wasn't just Anza-Borrego. We saw it through the Coachella Valley, the Mojave Valley. It was widespread, even some of the Imperial Valley. But you still need soil conditions that, support the seeds. Some of our sand dune areas in the deserts, you're not going to see the flowers. But Anza-Borrego is very unique in that it has a lot of the cacti. It has a lot of native vegetation. It used to be a lake bed, so it's very fertile to allow growth of these flowers.
Now, we've seen a lot of rain here, of course, in the last month in February, but how does this winter compare to recent winters, especially that drought-ending winter of a couple of years ago?
So this year has been wet, as most of us have noticed, and we're going to notice with the really green conditions and the flowers in the desert. When we look at past winters, 2017, 2011, and even 2005 winters way back, they were wetter. So it isn't unprecedented, but compared to the last 10 years, we've only seen 2 other years that are this wet.
And of course, folks who've lived here a long time know that the snowpack is key in the Sierra, and they've been getting a ton up there as well, right?
Yeah, snowpack is something that maybe we take for granted at times. We assume that the mountains always have snow. Last year was a record dry year for not just rain, but also for snow. We saw places in the Sierra Nevada with over 250 inches of snow just in February. So snowpack is very important for filling up those reservoirs and then allowing us to distribute that through our water supply system.
Well, they'll be skiing up there through July 4th at least, and right now we'll be enjoying the wildflowers in the Anza-Borrego Desert. Thanks very much, Alex Tardy, for joining us.
That's a perfect combination, the desert flowers and skiing at the same time.
There you go. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm your meteorologist, Daji Aswad. Going to be telling you about your weather tonight here in San Diego County. Still going to be calling for some showers in the Oceanside and San Diego, dropping down into the 50s. Cooling down to 54 in Borrego Springs and 41 in Mount Laguna. Also could see some shower activity. We're going to show you that on the Futurecast. Wednesday, 6 p.m. is where we're kicking it off. So tonight, clouds, spotty activity around 6 p.m. But we'll get another surge of moisture as we head into the 9 o'clock hour and continue into midnight here on Thursday. Then that will kind of dwindle on down as we continue through your Thursday morning. And in fact, tomorrow, dry conditions for most areas. 64 in Oceanside, 65 in San Diego, and 72 in Borrego Springs, 46 for Mount Laguna. We continue into your Thursday and Friday forecast. Chilly conditions coming on down, as well as a chance for some spotty activity late week. So if you're out towards Anza-Borrego tonight, a spotty shower through the evening hours, and then into tomorrow, a dry start with another chance for some spotty showers late. Winds will continue to pick on up into your Thursday and Friday. We're talking gusts 40 to 50 miles per hour. Conditions will continue to cool down with highs in the 60s for the next several days. Back to you.
The super bloom of flowers in 2017 brought hordes of people all at once here to Anza-Borrego State Park. It was almost too much of a good thing. To see what's happening this year and the crowds that we're expecting, we turn to Dennis Stephen. He's the official interpreter for Anza-Borrego State Park. Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you.
So start with that super bloom a couple of years ago. How many people did we have? How big was the bloom?
So 2 years ago in 2017, we had over 140,000 people visit the visitor center itself. That's not including people that just went into the town. The flower bloom was a magnificent bloom 2 years ago. It pretty much all bloomed at once, and so it was really crowded. The town experienced hordes of people coming in, and so we did learn a lot of lessons from 2 years ago that we are trying to improve this year.
All right, and the impact of all those people coming at once, the term Supergeddon, Flowergeddon was born. Tell us about that.
2017, most people were directed to come down Montezuma Grade and directly to the visitor center. So this year what we're trying to do is we're trying to give people information on our website about how to go directly to the flower fields and different routes into the park. People from San Diego can come up through Julian along 78, or S2 if they want a scenic drive and see some of the flower fields in the south end of the park. So having different routes into the park available for the public is one way we're trying to make improvements this year.
And besides the spring flowers, there's plenty of other attractions here at Anza-Borrego State Park, even at nighttime, for example, right?
Yes. Anza-Borrego Desert State Park is an international dark sky park. And we have, once a month, we have stargazing programs put on by our staff here at the Visitor Center. Usually it'll be in Borrego Palm Canyon, depending on the weather. But then we also have other opportunities as well. This year we've introduced a new program called Behind the Scenes Tour. It's a great tour of our archaeology and paleontology labs, so people can make reservations for that. We have amazing campfire programs, guided hikes, tours, all sorts of programs for visitors to enjoy.
And compare this year's bloom with that one from a couple of years ago. What's the differences?
So 2 years ago, like I said, the blooms happened all at once. This year, with the weather conditions, the blooms seem to be spreading out. So we're having flower fields come up at different times, and different flowers will come up at different times as well. So we're looking at perhaps an extended season this year compared to 2 years ago, where it was pretty much all at once.
All right, so we come for the wildflowers and we stay for the stargazing. I've been speaking with Dennis Stephen. He's the official interpreter here at Anza-Borrego State Park. Thanks very much, Dennis.
All right, thank you.
About 40 miles east of here is another big attraction. People go to the Salton Sea to see the thousands of birds that gather there. But the lake is changing, and so are the birds. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson explains.
Water and perhaps salt are the most abundant things at the Salton Sea, but birds are not far behind. More than 400 different bird species have been recorded here, and estimates put the daily bird population around the sea at more than 100,000. Great for bird watchers like Ryan Yamas, who peers intently across the open water. He's a member of the Audubon Society.
You're going to see a lot of water birds. It's really cool because I can see right now a grebe, a western grebe.
This lake attracts many different kinds of birds and hundreds of different species.
The Salton Sea is huge. It's 35 miles long. So you're not going to see all the same species distributed evenly throughout.
There is bird activity both in the water and along the shore at the Salton Sea Recreation Area. The region is popular because coastal wetlands are so rare in California.
About 95% of them have been destroyed.
Yama says birds congregate in other regions, but there is a richness here that's unmatched. It is something that he doesn't get tired of looking at.
Yeah, so there's some ruddy ducks. Those are the ones that suffered from the die-off. So it's kind of cool to see them too.
That duck die-off happened on the southern edge of the lake in January. Avian cholera decimated ruddy ducks, northern shovelers, black-nested stilts, and gulls. The disease spread quickly because the birds were huddled together looking for fish around a freshwater inlet, the New River. Thousands of bird carcasses ended up at the Salton Sea National Wildlife Refuge.
So this is our largest incinerator.
Chris Schoeneman works for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. A peek inside the incinerator reveals bones that weren't completely consumed by fire. Incinerators were built here because disease has a long history of killing birds in this region.
This past January, it was close to 7,000 birds out there, and to try to get out there and pick 7,000 birds up one at a time is a huge challenge.
Burning the carcasses gets the diseased bodies out of the ecosystem, hopefully limiting future outbreaks. But the fact that there are 2 incinerators here also says something about the changing ecosystem in the Salton Sea.
As the sea changes, though, it gets saltier. It is affecting the animals that live in the sea. Most dramatically, lately we've seen a shift in the fish populations.
Freshwater fish like tilapia are disappearing as the salt builds up in the water. And the changing environment is challenging and changing the bird populations. There are fewer species. White pelicans are a pretty rare sight here these days, as fish-eating birds look for other rest stops.
The productivity of the Salton Sea is not what it used to be.
The numbers bear that out. The estimated daily population of birds at the sea hovers around 100,000, half to a third of the numbers that used to be here as recently as a decade or so ago. But those who come to see the birds are still rewarded. Joan McCandless and Carol Olivier are watching a burrowing owl huddling in a plastic pipe on the western edge of the sea.
Isn't he adorable? Oh, look, he's really moving around.
The small ground nesting birds' populations are falling elsewhere, but there are about 4,000 breeding pairs around the sea. McCandless says the region rewards persistent birders.
The closer you look, therefore binoculars, the more beautiful they are. And they all have different personalities, too, species to species.
Biologists are tracking the birds, too. They say the health of the bird population says a lot about what's going on inside the water. A smaller, saltier sea will serve fewer bird species, but the disappearance of fish-eating birds may make room for more birds that eat bugs and worms along the muddy shore. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition.
And thanks for joining us this evening for our Super Bloom from Anza-Borrego Desert State Park.
Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.